All right, welcome back. We are reading Pax again today, and we are ready for chapter 7, which is a Pax chapter. What did we read about last time we read? We got back in with Peter's story. What's up with Peter? Josiah?
So, he was trying to find, he was, hungry and ran out of everything, and, all of his extra stuff was already used, and he needs to find somewhere where he stayed in his, at a house.
Okay, so he went down this dirt road, and he thought it was maybe a cut through over the mountains, but then he saw a barn. He heard someone sawing wood, so he knows someone's around, and then something terrible happened to Peter. Quentin, what happened?
He broke his foot.
He broke his foot. He got caught in a root. You know, some tree roots can be really big, kind of gnarly. They go all over. His foot got caught, and he heard the bone snap. And can he walk at all?
No.
He cannot walk. Hayden.
And we don't know what he's going to do.
We don't know what he's going to do. We all talked about maybe what we would choose to do, so we'll see. But first, we need to check back in with Pax. Okay, a Pax reminder. Last time we read about Pax, he was following Runt and Bristle to their den to stay with him during the storm. How does Bristle feel about Pax? Noah? He smells like people. So she is very worried about him and has let him know that, right? Hayden, real quick.
She feels nervous because, he has a human scent, and usually, maybe her mom and dad, got caught in a trap because of the humans.
Okay, good. Emma?
Non-trusting of them?
Yeah, she's not trusting, and you can tell she does not trust people. All right, chapter 7. Pax squirmed in pleasure at the solid, warm weight of another's body nestled against his. Half awake, he sniffed to draw in the comforting scent of his boy. Instead of human, though, he found fox. He woke fully then. Curled against him, snoring, was the vixen's brother. Runt whimpered and fluffed his tail over his snout, still asleep. Pax pulled himself up sharply. He had no practice at dominance, but the situation left him no choice. Go back to your den. When Runt tried to nestle into his chest, Pax nipped him on the shoulder. Runt shook himself awake and rolled to his feet. He didn't duck his head in submission, and he made no move to leave. Play, his position invited instead. In other circumstances, Pax would have welcomed the good-natured little fox's company, but he had no interest in tangling with Bristle again. All right, whoever's making that noise, please stop. And in fact, he had no interest in anything besides getting back to his humans. Pax fetched the plastic soldier he'd cached and dropped it as an offering, then warning him away again. After a final pleading look, Runt took the toy in his mouth. Pax followed him out and watched until he slipped into a hole a few tail lengths away. So what they've got going on here, they've got two little dens dug out of the ground. So Runt and Bristle are in one, and Pax is in his own. When the thunderstorm had hit, short but violent, the whole sheets of sky splitting open in wrathful cracks, Pax had worked his way into the shallow entrance of an abandoned den not far from the one Bristle shared with her brother, before taking measure of his surroundings. Now in the pale light of the half-moon, he took a moment to survey them. The hillside faced south. Here the roots of the trees seemed to claw at the sandy soil like the brown knuckles of clenched fists. Tucked among them, Pax saw 3 den entrances. Above this hillside, the forest rose to the north and west back to the road. Below, a vast grassy valley sloped away. It was an ideal location. The hillside perch provided little cover for approaching predators, while the line of trees protected the foxes from the north winds. The meadow smelled abundantly of life. As Pax took all this in, a tension deep within him loosened. It was the same way he'd felt as a kid, when after he'd pushed his food dish to the furthest corner of his boy's nest room 3 times, Peter had finally understood to leave it there. Away from the cold north wall, and with a view of the door where the father entered, sometimes in anger. Safe. But this place was not safe for him. Bristle had warned him that in the same meadow lived an older fox and his mate. He was already facing a challenger from outside and would not tolerate the presence of another lone male. And just then, Pax saw a movement below him. A broad-shouldered alpha with black and gray fur emerged from the brush halfway down the slope and marked a sapling beside him. All right, so the same way that dogs mark places by lifting up their leg and peeing on it. Okay, same thing with foxes and wolves. All dogs like that, they mark territory like that. So when he says he's marking something, that's what he's doing. The big fox began to groom, but with a paw still to his ear, he suddenly pricked his snout into the breeze. Pax bolted up the hill and plunged into the forest undergrowth. He picked up his own scent easily, although it had rained hard. Stopping only for quick licks of water from the leaves, he followed it back to the road. There, Pax caught the lingering scent of the military transport caravan from the day before, but no other traffic had passed since then. He settled himself on the fallen oak trunk again to wait. Morning brought the shimmery breeze of insect clouds and the chatter of waking birds, but still no traffic sounds on the road. As the sun rose hot and dry, it burned off the rain droplets that had hung from every green shoot. Pax was aware of his hunger now, but his thirst was worse. He'd had nothing to drink since leaving his human's house. His throat was parched and his tongue swollen and thick. He felt dizzy whenever he shifted his position. 100 times a thin scent of water drifted past him, but he never considered abandoning his post for its promise. His humans would come back here. He dug his claws into the wood and strained for the sound of a vehicle on the silent road. An hour passed, and then another. Pax dozed and woke and remembered, dozed and woke and remembered. And then the wind brought news of something approaching. A fox. The same male he'd seen earlier, the one Bristle had warned him about. The fox's gait was deliberate, showing neither hesitation nor wasted energy. The way his grayed coat draped his frame announced that he was old. As he drew close, Pax saw that even his eyes were clouded gray with age. After offering his scent, Gray settled himself on the grass beside the fallen trunk. He made no move to elevate himself, indicating that he meant no threat. You carry the scent of humans. I lived with them once. They are approaching. A sudden hope rejuvenated Pax. Have you seen my boy? He described Peter. But Gray had seen no humans at all since the time he had lived with them in his youth. And that was in another place, a dry, stony land of long winters and low sun, distant. The approaching humans are coming from the west. They are bringing war. The crows who have seen them do not describe any youth. The news weakened Pax. He swayed and nearly lost his grip of the trunk. You need water. Follow me. Pax hesitated. His humans could come at any time, but his need for water was urgent. Is it nearby? Can I hear the road from this water? Yes, the stream passes beneath the road. Follow me. Gray's manner, confident but not threatening, calmed Pax. He dropped from his perch and followed. Soon they came to a deep gash in the earth, from which rose the scents of water and of things that grew in rich mud. Pax peered over the edge and saw a silver brook, studded with black stones, glinting between green reeds and purple blossoms. Gray began to ankle down cautiously. Lured by the scent of water, Pax scrambled past him, straight down the cut. Halfway there, he lost his footing and skidded the rest of the way. When he righted himself, he stared. The water tumbled past him as if from a vast faucet, larger by far than even the spout that poured water into the great white tub his boy bathed in. So is he looking at a waterfall? Mm-hmm. He dipped his head. The water was cold and tasted of copper and pine and moss. It rushed into his mouth as if it were alive. It stung his teeth and drenched his mouth and throat. He drank, and he didn't step away until his belly was taunt. That means very full. Gray joined him, drank, and then invited Pax to rest with him. Pax cocked his head to listen intently to the still, silent road above the culvert. I must be at the road when my humans come from me. Gray eased himself to the ground and stretched out. That road was blocked yesterday by the war sick. Pax thought back to the vehicles that had passed the day before, the ones that smelled like his boy's father's new clothing. It was true that the road had been unused since then, but it didn't matter. My boy will return for me there. No, the crows report this. The road is closed. Pax paced from stone to stone, thrashing his tail as he worked the puzzle. The answer came. I will go to my boy at our home. Pax circled to be sure, although there was no question. He felt the pull of his home strongly from only one direction, south. Gray did not seem surprised. There are vast human colonies there. When the Warsick arrive here, my family will have to move nearer to those colonies or go north into the mountains. Tell me about the humans there. How are they to live beside? Again, the old fox's comportment soothed Pax. He came back and sat. I have seen many from a distance, but I know only 2. Are they false acting like the ones I know? Pax did not understand. Gray rose to his haunches, agitated, and shared the behavior he had seen. A human turning away a starving neighbor, acting as if there were no food in his larder when it was full. A human feigning indifference to a mate she'd chosen. A human enticing a sheep from its flock with a soothing voice and then butchering it. Your humans do not do these things? Immediately, Pax thought of his boy's father pulling him from the car. His voice mimicking a sense of regret Pax knew was false by the burst of lie scent he'd given off. So foxes, they're saying they can even smell when someone's lying. They have such good scent they can smell that. He turned back to the brook. As it spilled over a pair of stones, the current split and then reunited in a liquid silver braid. Pax was struck by a memory. Not long after his boy had rescued him, when he was still a skittish kit, a stranger had come to the door. Pax had watched from under a table as his boy's father had greeted a woman with a long silver braid streaming over one shoulder. His smile showed all his teeth, which Pax had come to understand meant, welcome, I'm glad to see you. I wish you no harm. But beneath the smile, the man's body was rigid with anger and fear. Pax had been confused by this fear. The small woman was projecting nothing but kindness and concern. She kept repeating the word Pax had already come to associate with his boy, Peter, in a pleading tone. The man's full-teeth welcome smile remained frozen in place, but the room had flooded with the bitter scent of deception as he answered her. His chest had been puffed out in threat as he shut the door hard against her. Pax turned to the older fox. I have seen it. Not in my boy, never in him, but it's true of his father. The old fox seemed to age as he took this in. With visible effort, he rose on his haunches. Are they still careless? They were careless where I lived with them. Careless? They plow a field and they slaughter the mice living there with no warning. They dam a river and leave the fish to die. Are they still careless that way? Once, when Peter's father was about to cut down a tree, Pax had watched Peter climb it to take down a nest and move it to another tree. On cold days, Peter brought fresh straw to Pax's pen. Before he himself ate, he always made sure Pax had food and water. My boy is not careless. The old fox seemed relieved by this news, but only for a moment. When war comes, they will be careless. What is war? Gray paused. There is a disease that strikes foxes sometimes. It causes them to abandon their ways, to attack strangers. War is a human sickness like this. Pax jumped to his feet. The Warsick. They will attack my boy? War came to the land where I lived with my humans. Everything was ruined. There was fire everywhere, many deaths, and not only of the Warsick, the adult males. Children, mothers, elders of their own kind, all the animals. The men who were sick with the disease spilled their chaos over everything in their path. So when they're talking about the Warsick, what do these foxes mean? You have to pretend you're kind of a fox. They're thinking only of what they know. Quentin?
Like they're going into war, like as a battle.
Okay, so they know humans are going to start having a war, but why do they call it a sickness? Madeline?
Because like if you're a dog, like some people are mean to you, and like it's something that humans do to animals.
Yeah. So they're saying like they're not thinking clear, right? It's like if a fox or an animal gets really sick and starts to lash out and not act right. Like that's what these humans are doing. They're not calm and peaceful and honest. They're warsick, right? It's almost like a disease. They can't think right. They're killing everything. Hayden?
Also, pets, like any type of animal, could get sick by the gunpowder and stuff.
That's true. Chloe? Mm-hmm. Okay. So he just described what war was like for him. And Pax says, this same thing is coming here. Gray raised his head in a howl that turned the air itself to sadness. West of here, where the war is already, where the humans are killing each other, the land is completely ruined. The crows carry the news. The rivers are dammed. The earth is scorched bare. Not even briars will grow. Rabbits and snakes, pheasants and mice, all creatures killed. Pax leaped to the path. He would find his boy before this war came. Gray followed. Wait. I will travel south with you to search for a new home. Follow me back first. Back to the meadow? No. The vixen warned me not to return. The vixen will never welcome you because you have lived with humans. Pax then caught a quick flash of the same scene he'd watched pass between the vixen and her brother. A cold howling wind, a mated pair of foxes in great distress, a cage of steel clamps, blood-staining snow, and then, abruptly, nothing. Gray said, she's not dominant. Follow me back. We will rest and eat, then leave tonight. All right, that's the end of that chapter. Now, where are Pax and Gray planning to go together? What's their plan? Cadence? They're going to go to the south, where they hope to find safe places to live, and Peter's hoping to find his boy. Hayden?
Peter's hoping to find his boy?
Oh, sorry. Pax is hoping to find his boy.
He's trying to. They're gonna go travel to find Peter.
That's the hope. All right, now what kind of is an issue here, though? Pax is not going to stay where he was. We know someone else in the story is trying to find Pax. What might happen here? Angie? Shh.
I think that maybe they're gonna travel, and then when Peter finally gets there, he's gonna have to go where they're going again.
Right. Does Peter know Pax is traveling south?
He can't hear him.
They can't write letters to each other, right? So he doesn't know. So it instantly made me think of Homeward Bound, where the animals and the people weren't at the right time at the right moment, and it just was bad timing. Emma?
I think Gray's gonna die.
You think Gray might die because he's so old? Okay. Josiah?
Either they'll run into each other, or they'll have to both find each other again.
Okay, good. Eric, is that what you're going to say? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I will see you all later.